Welcome to my gallery. My name is Neil Priest and I am an artist, a wire sculptor principally, although I do work in other media as well. Behind me is a study of the head of the statue of David, and this is a gallery at my home in the northeast of Brazil, full of wire sculpture. But today I want to talk to you about my response to quite a controversial contemporary piece of art. The work in question is Damien Hirst's Shark. Now, you may well be familiar with it, but just in case you're not, I'll tell you a little bit about it. In the early 90s, before Damien Hirst had really arrived on the art scene, a young art graduate, he was invited by Charles Saatchi, the advertising executive and art mogul. He was invited to produce a piece of art. It was given £50,000 and a free hand, but it needed to be something spectacular. And what Damien came up with was a shark. Well, he didn't make a shark. He paid someone in Australia to catch, fish a tiger shark, which was then flown over to England, popped into an enormous tank with formaldehyde, preserving it, pickling it, and that was the work. All that remained was for Damien to give it a thought-provoking title. And the title, sometimes I get a few words wrong because it's nothing if not long. The title is something like this: The Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Who is Living. Thought-provoking, philosophical, existential, all that sort of good stuff that contemporary and particular conceptual art thrives on. And I'm not knocking the title, by the way. There's nothing wrong with having interesting titles. I think they go a long way to helping out the viewer, or at least guiding their questions and challenging them. But I confess, in the sort of polarized world of people responding to Damien Hirst's Pickled Shark, I fall very much in the camp of those who are not that impressed. Not to say it isn't an impressive thing. I've never seen it myself. I've seen some of his other artworks. He's done a lot of pickled animals, half cows and zebras and you name it. But I've met people who have seen the shark, and they assure me it is astonishing. I mean, it really does grab your attention. And of course it would. This is an object, the whole tank together, that weighs over 20 tons. The tank is approximately 5 meters long, with square ends measuring 2 meters each side. The shark itself is 4.3 meters. It's an impressive thing. And I don't want to suggest that Damien's Pickled Shark isn't art. It was exhibited in the Saatchi Gallery. It's been exhibited in the Tate Modern. And that pretty much makes it art by virtue of where you see it. Of course, there are other preserved sharks in natural history museums and marine institutes. They're not art. They are natural specimens preserved for study and teaching purposes, what have you. But Damien's sharks in a museum, it's art. And I'm not going to argue that it's not important art. It really has set the tone for much that has followed it over the last 30 plus years. So it's important. And it's a successful piece of art. The commission was £50,000. That's what he received from Charles Saatchi. The shark itself has sold for over 8 million at auction. And it has spurned a string of other Hirst pickled sharks. And those have also sold for millions at auction. So in every way, it's a successful piece of art, and it's a significant piece of art. But I don't like it. And my first reservation is this idea that we make art by killing things. That doesn't sit well with me. Sharks are much maligned creatures, one might say misunderstood, notorious, far too often in the press for all the wrong reasons, for simply doing what sharks do. And now with a fleet of drones above the world's beaches, it's not hard to find video footage of surfers and sharks, worryingly close, and sometimes tragically close. So, I get that sharks provoke quite a response, a certain amount of fear, but they are what they are, and they need to be left alone, quite frankly. So, there we are, the shark. And why don't I like it? Well, not just because of the killing involved, but it's also the title. And sure, art, contemporary art, has thought-provoking titles. And I think sometimes it's quite interesting. It sort of becomes a counterpoint to the work itself. It gives you some sort of clue about what you might be thinking, or poses a question, and you formulate a response in your mind together with the artwork that you are looking at. So I've got nothing against titles, even long titles that might be construed to be a little pompous or over the top. No, what I don't like about it is that, frankly, I think it gets it all wrong. The impossible death, the impossibility of imagining death in the mind of someone living. Well, actually, I think, whilst we don't know what it's like to die, it's a sort of final frontier, I think we can imagine it all too clearly. And certainly if you've ever gone diving and you've come face to face with a large shark, 30 meters under the water, make no mistake, the possibility of death is all too present in your mind. It's very real. So there's that. But there's also a simple point that I think a lot of art dwells on the wrong sort of stuff. To me, art, more than anything, is a celebration of what it's like to be alive, or at least discusses the question of living, of being alive. And sometimes the more difficult elements of it, the fact that we are mortal, is one of them. But I particularly like art which has, at least to some degree, a celebratory element. And so it struck me that perhaps the time had come for someone to answer the questions, those questions and others posed by Damien's shark with a new shark. And I thought, who better to do that than me? So this is very much rough and ready filming. Excuse me while we go for a little walk and let me show you my shark. And there it is. Here's as good a spot as any. Now, just as Damien made an enormous shark and gave it a preposterous title, I felt I should probably do the same. And since this is, at the very least, a response to Damien's work, I thought that my title should, in some sense, echo his. So, allow me to present the possibility of life in the mind of an artist. A little presumptuous calling myself an artist, but I am, and this is how I imagined a shark. It's all the things that Damien's isn't. It's made from matter that has and always will be inanimate. It's made from 18-gauge galvanized wire painted with automotive spray paint, suspended from a metal frame. And there's another important element which I will talk about in due course. But it is very much the opposite of Damien's shark. It's the same size, and it is pretty much a faithful copy. Now, I have my limitations as an artist, and I made it based on a few photographs on the internet rather than careful study of and multiple preparatory drawings of the original shark. But I think it's a fairly faithful copy, and it's certainly the same size, 4.3 meters in a 5 meter long tank. A lot lighter. I mean, I would guess that the shark and the tank all together weigh no more than 80 to 100 kilograms, if that, maybe less. Hard to say. But it's not heavy. It's certainly not a 22-ton sculpture. But I think what it is, in a way, is alive in a way that Damien's shark isn't. And I think when you look at it, at least what I'm hoping, is that you're drawn in and it feels alive to you. And in fact, that sort of is what happened and what provoked the third element of my installation. Because as you can see, there's a shark and there's a tank, but there's also another character. There's a little boy. Right, let's try and get him into the frame. There we go. What's the story behind the young lad? Well, when I was making, and I did make, a prototype, my wife's niece's son was visiting the house, and the first thing that he did, well, guess. Yes, he put his hand in the mouth, daringly. And that really got me thinking. But before I say any more, it strikes me that I'm getting close to about 15 minutes. And for a lot of reasons, for those of you new to this channel who perhaps stumbled across the video, not because you're one of my few hundred subscribers, but because you were searching for videos about Damien Hirst's shark, you know that I tried to keep the videos to around about 15 minutes. And I don't want to abuse your patience too much. So I guess there needs to be a part 2. And I'll leave that for another time. Something to look forward to. But also, if you're one of my regular viewers, you know I'm fond of asking you, if not to leave a like and subscribe, which would be very nice if you did. But what I'd really love it is if you left a comment, some thoughts. Well, what do you make of the shark? What do you think of this as a reworking of an iconic piece of art? Let me know in the comments below. And until the next video, I guess I'll leave it at that. So, ciao.